living on the streets?
It was more than one thing actually.
Okay.
I had my own business,
Yeah.
I worked for Shell, I got married, had children, had my own house, and out the blue, all of a sudden everything went upside down. Found out that my partner had gone behind my back. Unfortunately, eventually, the thought of everything that had happened and that passed, I kept it in my mind, and eventually I couldn't physically work no more. I couldn't carry on my job, so my job went, and eventually it just went down in a spiral.
What sort of support was offered at the time? Was there a lot of support?
Someone mentioned about this actual place, CATH, Chester Aid to the Homeless, pointed me to this direction. I turned up. I remember sitting over in that table in that corner there. They filled an application in because obviously they've got to register you as homeless. They explained to me at this building here where I'm talking now is that they could offer me hot food, drinks, advice, telephone support, use the telephone, a hot shower, and there's a clothes store upstairs.
Do you think the whole stereotype that everyone's got about the homeless, the fact that they're drug users, do you think that's wrong for them to perceive that way?
There's a lot of people out there had this perceived image that if you had an addiction like a drinking addiction or a drug addiction, they seem to only think that or gambling would lead them to homelessness. It doesn't. It can happen to anybody, any age, any sex, any background. You can be in the wrong place at the wrong time. It happened to me, and unfortunately, I couldn't mindset my change of life, and it went the wrong way. The system we live in, I don't think the system had anything to do with it. It's just that I think my own individual situation was that I turned myself even more so to work, to bury the hatchet of what was really happening to me. But as about 18 months had passed after the event, I think eventually it got to me what had actually happened to me. It sunk in what really had happened to me, and because I was trying to cope with it, I couldn't function with my job. So my job went. Obviously, I couldn't stay in the house no more. And eventually, I'm walking the streets thinking, I don't believe I'm actually homeless. And in my life, in my life when I was working hard, I never thought of the word homeless because it was far from my head of ever being there. So obviously, this charity does as much as it possibly can with the amount of funding that it's got. And I think if this charity was to lose its funding and it was disappear, we would be in a really bad state in Chester. There'd be nowhere else for anybody to go. Yeah, I just wish they could record it more, record all the records to asking people how it's happened to them, and keep a central base that would record everything like Shelter does. I think Shelter does do this. But then to find out what's happening out there. I know at the moment it's all because finances are very tight. Here in Chester, you've got it's the leisure centre actually, and it's fair enough. The leisure centre decided because the building was designed in such a way, it had little recesses, and because it's got a swimming pool, the leisure centre has a swimming pool, and because you've got the big air blowers, if you go by one that's blowing hot air out, well, if you're cold at night, you're going to go near one of them in a little recess, you're out the wind, the warm air's blowing on you, keeping you warm, and they just lie on the floor there. So what they decided to do is dig up the concrete, some of the concrete, and actually laid pebbles like the ones you have for horse and carts, cobbles, so you can't lie on it.
So how did you come from being on the streets to how did you get your life back on track?
Well, obviously CATH. I come to the place, they explain to me all the help support they can give me, and obviously it took quite some time. So the first process is taking all my records, my medical records, the issues, and what's caused me to be homeless. Then they look at trying to get me into one of their accommodation blocks. You start off in Crispin House, which is across the road from where we're speaking now, and it doesn't mean you got a bed every night. It means maybe once or twice a week you might get the bed, and then through time, when a space becomes at the hostel, which is next door to the church, next door but one. Once you move into the hostel, you've got a bed for the night. They then look at and supported hostel as well. They look at your concerns and issues, and then once they can find a move-on property for you to move into, that's like partly supported housing, which is run by CATH as well. and then it's like a stepping stone. You're moving progressively more to the end of the line. So you move from Crispin House, which is a starting point, to a hostel, from the hostel to a shared accommodation, which is supported housing as well, then eventually to your own flat, which I'm living now. It's in Chester City Centre now. Yeah, so I've got my own place. But, you know, the system's there, and if you keep listening, yeah, it won't happen overnight. It takes its time, and you get through the system, you come out the other end. No problem.